I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christine Barnes. Today, we're going to be talking about how Israel was able to take out the mastermind of October the 7th. And Kamala Harris made a statement yesterday, and I don't know why. I mean, I know she's running for president. I know she's the vice president, but she's not the president. And she told him not to go where he was and where the hostages were. And so I was so annoyed when I saw her face out there pretending like I don't know, she had much to do with it. But kudos on them. And also I want to talk about the charity dinner that presidents and presidential nominees usually tend to go to. And the comedian host called it the Met Gala for Catholics, or he referred to it as that because I guess other people call it that. And Kamala Harris did not go. She made a video that I didn't watch, so I guess we'll watch it together. I don't know if we can stomach the whole thing together, but we'll try. And also a very humorless statement on Trump going. I guess they're really trying to hammer in Trump is not there. Like they're really trying to go with that. So anyway, before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate because it does cost to stream and run my website, all that good stuff. So if you can support in that way, I do very much appreciate you and appreciate anything that you can do. I appreciate you guys watching because that does help as well. I thank you guys for commenting when you watch live. That does help as well. Or if you like it later or comment later, all those things do help. If you'd like to donate versus on Facebook, you guys can send stars. On YouTube, you guys can do super chats or stickers later. So thank you for all that. Also, you guys can check out different merchandise that's available at blacktnews.com. You guys can obviously have some book covers and stuff and some books in my background. You guys can learn more about that. There's a link in the description. It'll take you to my Amazon page. But when you go to blacktnews.com, there's a merchandise page. There's a banner at the top of the merchandise page that has some of my books on it that will take you directly to my book website, Ninja Does Publishing. So if anyone wants to learn more about the stuff that I write, you guys can. I also have information because sometimes parents will ask if my books are appropriate for their kids, and I don't really know how to answer that question because parents are different. My parents are different. They didn't want us watching anything like sexually graphic, but they didn't mind violence all that much, so anyway, I break down what, give some things like what might concern people and that you guys can make your own decisions. But, there's stuff that if you want to read, you guys can read in there too, so go ahead and learn more. I encourage you guys to check out some of my stuff, and you guys can also check out, different t-shirts and so on. Like I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For t-shirt, which I made this after the Gina Carano situation when she got fired from Disney, from Lucasfilm. And so there was another update in her case. Just FYI, I've reported on it in the past, and I said I would give updates. So Disney keeps trying to get the case thrown out, and so they tried to throw it out again, and I guess stop discovery and whatever. And the judge refused to do that. So the case is still proceeding forward, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if they'll try to settle out of court because I don't think for her it's not about the money. It's about the point of it all and free speech and hypocrisy, and they also, slandered her. So um, I'm sure, I don't know. Maybe they think some interesting things will pop up in Discovery. So congrats to her, and we'll continue following the case. Gina Carano, for those of you who don't know, she was an actress who was on The Mandalorian, and she played Cara Dune. And so she had tweeted some things that they didn't like. The main thing, reason why Disney started souring on her, is because people were really pressuring folks to put pronouns in their bios and stuff. And she, decided to tweet droid noises instead, like my pronouns are beep bop boop. And so folks were upset about that, and Disney was upset about that, and they wanted her to basically go through a humiliation ritual, you know, uh, berate the white woman tour, I think, because they want her to get on a Zoom call with like 30 different LGBT people. They want her to apologize a particular way. And she's like, well, let me explain things my way that I like to, and well, how about I take some of these people out to dinner and we can have a, civil conversation. And then, Disney didn't like how she was like reacting to their orders. So then they went pretty radio silent. And so she had tweeted something about COVID, basically like it starts with spying on your neighbors and all this other kind of stuff. And then Lucasfilm was like, she doesn't work for us. Which was news to her, that she found out at the same time we all found out on Twitter, and or wherever it was reported. And they also made a claim that she was disrespecting Jewish people, which she did not do. So that's really where she, I would say she was improperly fired, but that's their prerogative. Though I don't know what kind of contracts or the details of whatever they signed are, but they totally said some stuff about her that wasn't true in the midst of their firing. So I think they're rightly in trouble, and I'm glad the case hasn't gotten thrown out, and we'll see where it goes. But anyway, that's why I originally made this shirt. I had her in mind. But you guys can check out that and other stuff that we have available at blacktnews.com. I encourage you all to make sure that if you're watching on YouTube, or I don't know how you do notifications on Facebook, but on YouTube, please make sure that you're subscribed. I know sometimes these social media sites unsubscribe people, and please make sure that you're hitting notification bells, because they do post about every day. I think every day I pretty much post, but not all my stuff pops up. Not everybody's informed when I go live, and they are suppressing my account on like every single platform that I'm on. And I don't know, I don't have any like special reps or anything like that, so we kind of just have to fight through it together. So just be alert when I post stuff out. I am working on a big Kamala Harris video. If you followed my content for a while, it's something that I typically do during a presidential year. And I guess I'll just kind of say, I working on a 50 reasons video, and in 2016 I did one for Hillary Clinton, and because she's like, why aren't I 50 points ahead? And I was like, oh, here's 50 reasons. And so I made that, and it got about 800,000 views on YouTube. I mean, not YouTube, on Facebook. And I did one for Joe Biden, but it didn't get a lot of traction in 2020. But I am doing one for Kamala Harris, and I hope it gets a lot of traction. And again, they are suppressing my account, but I hope you guys, when you see it, when it comes out, that you guys will share it. I actually have more than 50 reasons, so I had to narrow stuff down and take stuff out, because there's obviously a lot of reasons to not vote for her. And most of them aren't even like personality stuff. It's just all like revolved around policies that she thinks she said she wanted to implement, things that she did, her record, and so on. There's only one mention of Willie Brown, and I don't need that in there, but I think where it is, it'll make sense why I decided to go ahead and mention that. So anyway, and it's obviously something she must not like being mentioned, because she hasn't and doesn't bring that up. So Craig says he's looking forward to that coming out. I'm looking forward to it being done. There's lots of things for people to do, and for me to do prior to the election, and we're very short on time. So I'm really trying to pop it out. I was up real late last night, and I'm assuming I'll be up late up late tonight, and I got church after I get done with you guys. So I'm trying my best out here. But again, if you guys want to support me, please do that. If you can at the website, and if you can't, please, 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 please at least share my content, because that does all help as well. So if you can, please do that, and make sure you guys are subscribed on my website, so you guys get emails. I do not send a lot of emails. As a matter of fact, I do not send enough. So I am sorry for the long intro, but I wanted you guys to know about what I'm working on. And but I guess I did include some news in that, because I included the Gina stuff. So we're already in the news already. So anyway, let's hop to it. So I mentioned it yesterday that it looked like Israel had gotten Yahya Sinwar, who's the leader Hamas and mastermind behind the October 7th massacre. And I just didn't know if it had been totally confirmed when we were on air yesterday, but it was confirmed that they got him. They did have some drone footage that they released. I'm not going to really play the drone footage, but they did kill him. So they did find him also in Rafah, which is where the Biden administration really pressured Israel into not going. And I will show you a clip of Kamala Harris saying, she studied the map, so she didn't want them to go. But they really pressured a lot to try to keep Israel from going in there, knowing that they had hostages there, or they suspected they had hostages there, and it was likely where that was where Yahya was, and he was. So obviously the US helped Israel, providing money and other stuff like that, but they also pressured them politically so much, and really, I would say, delayed and lagged and emboldened their enemies by making the world or make it seem like the world was really divided, like everyone was against them. So I really resent the way that the Biden administration handled this. And I don't know how much of it was just from an ideological perspective, and I don't know how much of it was from a political perspective, because they're afraid of the uncommitted vote really damaging Biden at the time, or damaging Kamala. They kept trying to play two sides. And what aboutism? Like, you can't just condemn anti-Semitism, you got to also condemn, people who are anti-Muslim, and you gotta, it's like, oh, I don't agree with those protesters, but they kind of have a point. And it's playing the both sides and not having moral clarity with this. And war is complicated, but it the people, to really free the people of Palestinian people, the people living in Gaza, they need to be free from Hamas and this perspective of just terror. So it's a good thing to destroy the bad guys, but they kept pressuring ceasefire, 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 when the leaders of Hamas kept saying, when we get another opportunity, we're totally going to kill more Jews. So you're just asking, the question is, do you want, if you want a ceasefire, you're just saying that you want more Jews dead later. So do you want them to finish the fight and protect themselves and fight for self-preservation? And the numbers of, like, the casualties were all in flux, and there were a bunch of inconsistencies and lies, and you couldn't trust different the Palestinian the different numbers that were coming out of there, and that were being just accepted and reported, that didn't make any sense. And the truth is that Israel really led the urban warfare in a much more humane way than Western allies or anyone else has conducted urban warfare, and had a lower, like, casualty rate than, like, the US and other folks would have had. So if anything, I don't talk about foreign policy a lot. It's not like, I guess it's fair to say it's not a forte, whatever, but it makes so much sense to be a Zionist if you're, like, looking at the state of the world and the attitudes that people have, and the sort of pressure that people had in the midst of folks who like really just want to kill them and wipe them out and drive them into the sea if they don't murder them before they even drive them out into the sea first. And if there's so much hostility toward them, like the people of Israel have to be like, okay, we do need a place of our own, and we do need to be able to defend ourselves, because no one's going to fight for our self-preservation, for our preservation, like we will. And that was, I mean, the premise for them having a state anyway. So anyway, I'm glad that they were able to take out this guy. So let me go ahead and play Kamala Harris's you know, attempt to be relevant. And then I'm going to go and play her maps comment. Okay? Because I did not forget. I saw that and I'm like, I'm immediately making a video. So I did a TikTok video like instantly. My sister was like, "What about dinner?" I was like, "Hold on." I gotta talk about this real quick. And I already put it on Facebook, but here we go.
Know this, we will always bring you to justice.
Now, I don't want to put a dampener.
I'm sorry, that was the full video. Let me go back and realize that was a report. Apologize. I don't want to play your full statement anyway, but maybe she put on her own page. Sorry, I thought I marked it. Here we go. Here's CBS.
Sinwar was responsible for the killing of thousands of innocent people, including the victims of October 7 and hostages killed in Gaza. He had American blood on his hands. Today, I can only hope that the families of the victims of Hamas feel a sense and measure of relief. Sinwar was the mastermind of October 7, the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. A terrorist attack that killed 1,200 innocent people and included horrific sexual violence and more than 250 hostages taken into Gaza, including 7 Americans, living and deceased, who remain in captivity. A terrorist attack that triggered a devastating war in Gaza, a war that has led to unconscionable suffering of many innocent Palestinians and greater instability throughout the Middle East. In the past year, American special operations and intelligence personnel have worked closely with their Israeli counterparts to locate and track Sinwar and other Hamas leaders. And I commend their work. And I will say, to any terrorist who kills Americans, threatens the American people, or threatens our troops or our interests, know this, we will always bring you to justice. Israel has a right to defend itself, and the threat Hamas poses to Israel must be eliminated. Today, there is clear progress toward that goal. Hamas is decimated, and its leadership is eliminated. This moment gives us an opportunity to finally end the war in Gaza. And it must end such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination. And it is time for the day after to begin without Hamas in power. We will not give up on these goals, and I will always work to create a future of peace, dignity, and security for all.
And I don't think she took questions after that. Oh boy. What if their self-determination just leads them back to terror? That's a question for you, because they did select Hamas. Hamas remained popular. There's a lot of folks that are like, I don't support what happened, but yeah, they kind of got what coming to them. Even people here in the U.S. So many attitudes like that, and those sorts of people she wanted to justify and defend and stuff. It's easy to say they have a right to defend themselves. The war must end. We'll hunt you. We will find you. But where was this attitude before? Because they were pushing ceasefire, 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 ceasefire really hard. They weren't saying they killed Americans, so we're going to hunt you down to the end of the earth. I thought that would have made more sense, because there's all these attitudes about what Israel was doing, but in my mind I'm just like, okay, but they did kill Americans. So where's the hype there from us? Why is there so much finger wagging when they killed Americans? Why aren't we more cowboy about this? That puzzled me. People's attitudes about this whole situation. So it's really easy to come out there and make that kind of speech after Israel already killed Mastermind, but we can't forget that you were an obstacle, man.
We have been clear in multiple conversations and in every way that any major military operation in Rafah would be a huge mistake. Let me tell you something. I have studied the maps.
Oh, okay.
There's nowhere for those folks to go. We have been.
Oh, there's just nowhere. There's no. Okay, you looked at the maps. Big brain Kamala Harris looked up at the maps and stuff. They didn't want them to go there. Not only did they not want them to go there, they were like threatening like aid to withhold aid and other kind of stuff like that if they did go. There was allocated funds that were already approved that they halted, and so I'm like, Trump got impeached for the perfect phone call, whatever, Ukraine withholding funds and stuff, but y'all just gonna withhold funds that were again allocated already by the Congress and stuff, and you're denying certain ammunition and stuff because you're denying different weapons because they're going into Rafah and you don't want them to. And again, that's where Sinwar was, and that's where the hostages were. But I mean, this was a while ago, but AP had reported Jerusalem, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Tuesday claimed the United States is withholding weapons and implied this war was slowing Israel's offensive in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, where fighting the exacerbated and already dire humanitarian situation for Palestinians. President Joe Biden has delayed delivering certain heavy bombs since May over concerns about Israel's killing civilians in Gaza, yet the administration has gone to lengths to avoid any suggestion that Israel forces have crossed a red line in the deepening Rafah invasion, which would trigger more sweeping ban on arms transactions. So, I mean, Netanyahu said that he was bottlenecking them, and it was inconceivable what the administration was doing. So, like, I didn't forget, and people shouldn't forget what they were doing. So, they didn't want them to go in there. You can have your concerns, but again, how they were pressuring them behind the scenes, scolding them behind the scenes, and then not so behind the scenes when they were different people administrations were leaking stuff to the press, and they were reporting on the friction between Israel and the U.S. and the potshots at Bibi. You not like Bibi and feel that he's failed in different ways. But when Kamala was on 60 Minutes and they asked, like, is Bibi and is Benjamin an ally, and she couldn't even say that. She had to phrase it to like, well, Israel's an ally and stuff. And then they made it seem like Bibi was the problem, and if they replaced Bibi with somebody else, they could get their ceasefire and make them trade like I don't know 1,000,000 hostages. I mean 1,000,000 prisoners for the hostage. I don't know, just crazy different stuff. Anything to get them to a ceasefire, so politically they could do better with the uncommitted voters and in Dearborn and other places. When the truth is that Israel was pretty united in stopping Sinwar. They're pretty united in that. But they had to really make Bibi look like he was the focal point of just everything bad going on, or that they deemed as bad, because that was politically expedient for them to do. When the truth is that the people of Israel wanted to fight for, again, self-preservation here. These monsters were saying, we will ceasefire how? The next chance we get, we're so glad we did October 7th, and we're going to do it again. That was our attitude. So it's really easy after they kill the mastermind to be like, we will hunt you down. But where was that energy when it mattered? When it counted? I hate this. I hate this because we have an election very soon. People are already voting. People are turning in their absentee ballots really, really early. Already got stuff in. So many people have already voted. And many people have already voted for her. And it's very clear that she just does not have what it takes to be the commander in chief. I saw a TikTok video yesterday. Or maybe it was this morning. I think it was early this morning. And somebody was saying it's two black people talking about Kamala Harris. And this guy was telling this girl, it's not that Kamala Harris is stupid. She's just not built for this role. And he said, if I had to start talking about like cars like in a manner that a mechanic would, he's like, I wouldn't sound very smart either. He's like, it's not that I'm a dumb man. It's just that I don't know the stuff that a mechanic would know. And I would sound dumb. So he said, it's not that she's a stupid woman, but she's clearly not built for this. Now, I don't know about that. There's things about Kamala that I don't think she comes off as particularly smart. So much that she's a fool. So I don't know if I completely agree with that analysis, but I do think it's very clear that she's not built for this. Now she may be the president. You know, she may end up winning the election. It doesn't look like that's the case. It looks like Trump's gonna take it. But we don't know. I'm so sorry. I don't know why that alarm's going off. So we don't know if she's gonna win. But I want someone who's actually going to come to the podium and talk about, yes, if you're a terrorist, we're going to hunt you down. Don't you dare ever kill an American, or we're going to make you bleed. This speech is so hollow. And I also kind of resent the fact that she gave it. Like, I know she's on the campaign trail or whatever, but I'm like, you're not the president. You could have been the president. Because I'm sure you probably threatened Joe with the 25th Amendment. He probably shouldn't be out there, but he is the president. And that seemed like a kind of presidential kind of speech to give, you know, and that just wasn't her place. It could be one day, but it's not now. It's not now. So something else that's pretty tragic. So some time ago, it was back in August, I believe, there were 6 hostages that were found, and they were executed. And it caused a lot of outrage. But the family members were actually informed that that they were with Sinwar. So there were all these reports and rumors that Sinwar was like, you know, paranoid and scared that they were going to get to him, and he was surrounded by a bunch of different hostages. And apparently he had them, these 6 at least, and apparently he probably executed that, or made orders to have them executed while he fled. And the families were informed of that because they found like his DNA and stuff around in the area. So the families were informed that was probably the case. And so now that he has been killed, that's now public knowledge. But again, if they had gone in sooner and not delayed all this, I wonder if that would have, if he would have already been captured or killed, and if these hostages could have been saved if they had gone in sooner. I don't know. Questions you can ask that I guess we'll never quite have the answers to. We can just speculate. But again, the United States int- intelligence and money and weapons, we helped. We helped, but we did some stupid, unnecessary stuff. And obviously I think we made ourselves look weak on the world stage. Because as she said, they killed Americans. But we did not have a "we will hunt you down" mentality. We did not. We did not. When I was in the when I was in 10th grade, when we went to the Philippines, and we went for a missionary trip, and there were like terrorist um situations that had happened among that around that time. There was a ferry that had been bombed. There were some people who had been kidnapped, and I think maybe another incident. But there was a State Department warning, like, not to go. We were going for missionary work, for missionary purposes, and so we prayed, and we felt like, everything will be all right. And but in my mind, I also was like, okay, well, if my dad needs to go Rambo or John McClane or something to save my life, or if God has to anoint him and he has to become Samson all of a sudden, I believe that he will do everything in his power to keep me safe. But I really also believed that if something happened to me, that the United States government would do everything in their power to get me home. And perhaps that was naive of me. I was 14 at the time, but that was my mindset. And that in that time, George W. Bush was still, what year was that? I don't think did I say 2014? Because that's not the year that it happened. I graduated 07, so that was um in maybe 05, maybe 05, 06, something. No, it wouldn't have been 06. Maybe it was 05, 04, something around that time. I think my sister graduated 04. So maybe it was 05. We went to the Philippines, and but I was a sophomore, and but Bush was in office, and we just had that attitude, like the cowboy. That's what they referred to him as. And when Bush looked into the camera and said, "We're going to go hunt down terrorists," people believed him. So, when he said, they're going to hear us, when he was at ground zero and he had the bullhorn, and they're like, "We can't hear you." And he's like, "Well, I hear you. And soon the world will hear you," whatever the quote was. You felt that. You felt that. I don't, I don't feel that with Kamala Harris. After Afghanistan, when the 13 troops were killed, I was I think I wasn't home yet to watch it live. I think I was driving, and I knew that Biden was going to address the nation. And I'm like, whatever he has to say, he has to come out and he has to just kill this. He has to reassure people. He has to. I really, really, really wanted him to have a really strong presidential moment. I I think we needed him to, as a country, and he just didn't do it. Like, he tried, I think, really hard. He tried, but he just kind of failed there. And then I wanted to have that, we're gonna go and nail some folks. Like, there's gonna be, retribution. The world will know that you can't do this kinds of stuff or whatever. After our embarrassing pullout, he needed something, and something that he couldn't give, unfortunately. And then they, like, immediately did a strike, and then that strike was killing an aid worker and some kids, because they said that, the strike was true, and there was a secondary explosion, and there wasn't. There wasn't a secondary explosion. That's just something that they said. And they were trying to say, oh, that there were bombs or whatever, but there weren't bombs. There were water canisters that the aid worker was taking, like, water home to the village or whatever. So nobody was held accountable for that. Nobody was held accountable for that. And of course, Afghanistan just reverted, and it wasn't good for the people, wasn't good for women. And I have friends who served over there who felt just so awful, like their service didn't matter. And some of them really messed up as far as like their mentality after that. And I just was really praying for them and talking them through some stuff, and they're better now, but that was one of the most heartbreaking things, like as a nation, to watch. And he just doesn't have it in him. Biden doesn't, and Kamala doesn't. At least with Trump, he's not always like in your mind who's going to be the most presidential or whatever, as far as saying, you know, things in the most eloquent sort of manner. But if he was going to bomb the crap out of you, he's not interested in like long wars, anything drawn out like that. But if he can blow you up fast and hard, he's going to do that. He's going to do that. He's going to do that. So when the primary is going on, foreign policy was obviously Trump's like, check the box. I got one up on all you suckers, because of course he was the president. And as far as foreign policy, was a strong suit. And it was a shame when it was like Biden and Trump, they didn't have a debate that focused on that. The debate that was supposed to be, I think, more focused on foreign policy was probably that second one they were supposed to have, but it ended up getting canceled because the presidential commission, there was I can't remember all the details of the scandal, but they had a scandal where it was like really, really slanted, or there's some kind of giant bias toward Biden, but I can't remember all the details of that. But they ended up canceling that debate, and they didn't really ask questions. Like, they were so focused on race and other stuff. And I'm like, of course you guys wouldn't want to talk about the thing that is the most important for the commander in chief. So many things like economy and education, those things impact us so much locally. I'm not saying like federal stuff doesn't matter in that capacity, but so many things that we care about are local. But when you talk about foreign policy, that's something that's completely like in the wheelhouse there of the president, and they did not draw much attention on that at all. And I understand why they'd much rather, say, hey, Trump, we believe you said racist things in the past. What do you have to say about that? They'd rather have questions like that. And I'm, kind of exaggerating, but not kind of really, but they'd rather have questions that focus on race and other things where they feel that they can attack him on, rather than foreign policy, where he would obviously be stronger than Biden, and we know the result. So she just ain't got it, guys. She's just done. The thing that frustrated me the most about the Trump debate with Kamala Harris is how she was just not held accountable for her bad decisions, for her crazy policies, the things she's done in the past, voted for in the past, things that she's implemented in the past. He didn't really hold her accountable. And she dodged so many interviews that nobody really held her accountable. Brett held her the most accountable, and that's why they're probably ticked off. Not just him talking over her, but them actually having an interview and him showing her victims of the border crisis. Like, these women were killed, brutally killed. The families blame you and Biden. What do you have to say about it? I was watching a clip from Mr. Wonderful. He's a on businessman. You maybe seen him on Shark Tank, but that's his persona, Mr. Wonderful. And he was talking about that moment. His daughter is a Harris supporter, and he's, doesn't like Harris and prefers Trump. But they were watching the interview together, and when Brett showed the footage of the women who were killed by the illegal aliens, in his mind, he's thinking, she's going to apologize. Like, she's going to take accountability right here. I don't know why he thought this, but he was thinking, she's about to take accountability here. and she's going to be empathetic, but she's going to take responsibility, and then she's going to talk about how she's going to solve the problem. He's like, and this is going to be the moment where she can turn the election in her favor. And instead of doing that, because they were paused to like wait to see like what she's going to say, how she's going to answer this, she just points the finger at Donald Trump. And even though Brett already laid out the question very clearly, and these people who did these heinous things that killed these women were released into the country because of early decisions that the Biden-Harris administration made with the border, she's like, well, Donald Trump tried to stop us recently with the border bill that we wanted. So what does that got to do with your bad decisions? You and Biden, that you're still defending, not just still defending, but saying you can't think of anything that you do differently. So that's why people are really mad about that interview, which by the way, that interview got like 7 million views, I believe. It was like, and the Harris campaign is bragging about it, and I assume they're bragging about it because they feel it'll trigger Trump. That's what I believe. But I know I replied to it. Let me show you, because they're tweeting it out and they made a little graphic about it. Yeah, they made a little graphic about it and used this picture, this really bad picture of Trump. Harris on Fox yesterday, 7.1 million viewers. Trump Fox yesterday, 3 million viewers. Now, I don't know why 3 million viewers would still watch those town halls. And I don't know how intently they are watching. There's so much we already know about Trump. There's nothing more for us to learn. Especially, again, because he was already president. He was already president. And the truth is, this man's going to be a lame duck. So he doesn't have to worry about being reelected. So who knows what he will actually do? Just to be honest with you, because there's always a concern when presidents are suddenly lame ducks. When Obama was talking to, I think, the Russians and said like, oh, just wait on these things that you want because I'll have more, leniency. I'll have more room to like do stuff after my election, because he didn't have to worry about being reelected, So we can just probably go by experience of what happened before and hope, with that knowledge that it's about as good or better than it was before. Okay. But Kamala Harris, people wanted to see how she would handle an interview from someone who wasn't just gonna kiss her butt, someone who isn't like determined to see her win. And people, I don't know, maybe people thought that there were people who thought that Brett would go easy on her because they see more as a classic kind of bushy Republican who they assume doesn't like Trump or whatever. I think Brett is overall very fair, and he has given tough interviews to Trump before, and he would just ask relevant, important questions of Kamala Harris. And all the questions he asked were good. They were good questions. That she just wanted to shift the conversations to Trump over and over and over again, when the people were there to see how she would react to the interview, would react to the questions, how she'd answer the questions, and learn more about her. Not about the middle class stuff, but just why she's decided to change on her positions. And the answer is that she didn't change on her positions. She's just finding ways to lie or to not answer so she can go ahead and continue on with her radical ideology. And they ask about, oh, well, what about sex changes for illegal immigrants? And she's just like, well, I'm going to follow the law. Or tuition and all this stuff paid for illegal immigrants. Oh, well, we're going to follow the law. Okay, but you want the law to be changed. You want the law to be changed with Roe v. Wade, right? You're going to change that law, and then you're going to follow that law. So it's just kind of a scam. Right to your face. Right to your face. So I think in their heart of hearts, the fact that 7.1 million people watched her interview is probably making them crap their pants. The fact that so many people watched that interview. Because if they watch that interview on Fox News and to watch it live or whatever, and she still has a lot of sycophants who tuned in just to say yes, Queen, yes, and they're going to vote for her anyway. Okay. But there's a lot of independents, I'm sure, or Republicans considering whether or not that they should just sit out, who saw the interview and were like, oh my gosh, I can't sit on the sidelines or I can't cross over and vote for her. Like I saw so many people saying, I just can't vote for her. I don't want to vote for her after seeing this. I saw so many comments like that. And they watched the whole thing live, or they watched part of it or whatever on Fox. If they watched it on Fox, they're not watching it and getting it from little snippets that her team posts. They're not watching on MSNBC through whatever rose-colored lens that they can spin it in. If they watched it on Fox and they watched the whole thing, especially if they watched the whole thing, this is in no way a positive. It's in no way a positive for her and her team. And I know they don't think that it was going well, because if it was going super well, I don't think 4 people would have been like signaling Brett like it has to end. I don't think that's the case. But I do think that they made this graphic because Trump is obsessed with ratings and they think it would probably trigger him. And it might. He might have tweeted about it already. I don't know. But 3 million people do not need to see a Trump town hall. If if I was alerted to something interesting being said during it, I would find a clip or whatever. But what more needs to be said about this man? What more needs to be said? We know him. So I did not need to watch a Fox News town hall. People might watch long form interviews with different podcasters that might get him to tell kind of some different stories, or if you're interested in how he might react to them, like the Andrew Schultz and Going On Flagrant. A lot of people were interested in that podcast, the questions that they would ask and how they interact with them. And it was enjoyable to a lot of people because Trump is just so funny. He's with comedians, and Trump himself is just naturally funny. And they could not predict what was going to come out of his mouth, which, by the way, Andrew Schultz said that after that interview, where he was supposed to like air a special, I believe, got canceled. So the venue canceled him. So he's like, I can't know for sure, but it seems like that's probably the reason it happened right after that interview. So it's a shame. Anyway, let's move on to some clips about the charity dinner, the Al Smith dinner that happened yesterday. So I want to show some clips from Trump and his roasting of Kamala Harris and Jim Gaffigan. But I'm going to start with Jim here because this actually is some interesting commentary. That's pretty important and essentially things that I've said myself.
The Democrats have been telling us Trump's reelection is a threat to democracy. In fact, they were so concerned of this threat, they staged a coup, ousted their democratically elected incumbent, and installed Kamala Harris. In other words, all her dreams have come true. Really? It really makes you consider the power of prayer, right, Cardinal? Sometimes prayers take 3.5 years and a George Clooney op-ed. Yeah.
So what's funny about this commentary, and I've already heard a few times, so that's where there's probably not fresh laughs coming out of me, but they keep saying Trump's a threat to democracy, which we're not a democracy, right? But they're the ones who did get rid of their nominee, that was nominated by the people in the primary right after debate, right before their convention. They had to move fast to make sure they could legally push him out of there. And they didn't have a floor fight at convention. They didn't really entertain anybody else too much. I mean, we don't know all discussions they had behind the closed doors, but because of their ideology, I always kept saying they can't skip over Kamala Harris because she's a woman of color, and they just wouldn't have it because of their hierarchy of oppression or whatever in social justice and whatnot. They just couldn't do it. So they installed Kamala. She didn't get support in the primary when she ran in 2020. And or 2019 or whatever, how she wasn't in the race for long. She didn't get support then. And they confirmed her through the nomination process or whatever, but she didn't get any primary votes. And there's a lot of people who do not want her. There's people who are settling or whatever, and there's a lot of people pretending, and there was the whole joy hype and stuff, but they pushed Joe out. And Joe, we all recall, it's not like Joe went gently at first. We know that Joe did not want to go. There was all this buzz and all these questions, all this media, all these leaks about Joe and how he hadn't been having meetings with his cabinet, how he woke up real late. I mean, and was only really active for a couple hours a day, that he had to have afternoon naps, and his mental capacity and other stuff like that. So they start leaking all this stuff. So they continue asking these questions about it, and it just kept mounting and mounting and mounting. I believe the rumors about them threatening him with the 25th Amendment, because Jill and Hunter, they were by his, Biden's side. They didn't want him to step aside. Biden, of course, has legal issues with his son, and he says he won't pardon him. I don't believe that. I think, I think most parents would probably even pardon him in that situation. It's not like I can really fault him for it or whatever, but he says he won't, but I think he probably will. But there's all these things on the table where he kind of needs to be president, maintain presidency. So, I just think they obviously forced him out, and we got to see for a while. He's like, I'm going to run. I can do this. And he would say, watch me. Like, what do you say to people who say that you're too old or what? Watch me. He would just, he was a stubborn old man, and he wasn't going to move. And then they pushed him out, and they're like, Joe Biden is so selfless. He's so selfless. And that they totally did switch up all of a sudden, and he was honorable and etc. But even all that doesn't make sense, because they don't say that he stepped aside because he couldn't do the job anymore. Because if that's the truth, then he shouldn't be president right now, obviously. But I don't know if that was part of the deal, that he had to be able to remain president and finish out his term. But he still has a job. So the excuse of why he stepped aside is because he wanted to unite his party. And the reason why he needed to unite his party, because they were obviously united on him, because they backed him and the voters selected him, and he's their incumbent. And then they did not entertain a primary at all. They would not entertain people having debates and forcing Joe Biden to debate younger people. They did not entertain that. The DNC was not having that. So they did already unite behind Joe Biden, who already had experience in defeating Donald Trump at the ballot box. Okay? They were united behind Joe. But all of a sudden they weren't united anymore. And that reason was they saw all these signs pointing to Joe Biden cannot win, that Joe Biden is going to lose, and Joe Biden might end up costing seats in the House and the Senate. And he's going to take down the whole entire down ticket. That's why they decided to replace him, so they could put in who they thought was probably best given the circumstances to try to salvage their loss and perhaps even win. That was the goal. So here's the deal, guys. So the primary voters had their say. The primary voters for Republicans picked Trump. The primary voters picked Joe Biden. And we were going to have another matchup again, a repeat of 2020. And that's what the American people were ready for, right? That's what was advertised for. That's we had a debate between those two candidates. This was so late. They decided to do the switcheroo. But they thought they were going to lose. So at the end of the day, The Democrats were afraid of democracy. They were afraid of what the people would say. They were afraid of them judging Joe Biden and saying, you know what? We've had enough of this. We need to go back to how things were before. They were terrified of democracy. They didn't replace and do all the stuff to save democracy. They're terrified of it. So they staged their coup. And what's important about this commentary here is that other people can see it. It's not just, talking heads like me who are saying this stuff. Other people know. Other people can see that this is messed up what they did. But it is what it is. That the beauty about good comedy is that it's honest while there's exaggerations and other stuff like that. But some people are so deranged in politics that they're too angry to tell a good joke, because jokes do require some honesty, and a lot of folks just can't be honest with Trump. Like, I saw some episodes of Whose Line. Is it anyway? I think Gary is the one he's got curly hair and glasses. If I'm not mistaken, he hates Trump. A lot of those guys don't like Trump on Whose Line. I haven't watched it in a while. I don't think they still make it, but they would just say insults, and they wouldn't even be jokes. They were just straight up like derogatory stuff with no punchline. And they just expect people to laugh, but all they were giving was attitude and statements, and there was no joke behind it. And it's a shame when people are blinded by their hatred that they can't even, operate in their craft anymore. But that was a good joke. Hopefully it doesn't end his career, because that might have been a little too honest for them. Might have been a little too honest for them. He had also mentioned something about Kamala Harris not showing up. And that is very rare for folks to not show up, man.
This event has been referred to as the Catholic Met Gala. 22% of Americans identify as Catholic. Catholics will be a key demographic in every battleground state. I'm sorry, why is Vice President Harris not here? I mean, consider this. This is a room full of Catholics and Jews in New York City. This is a layup for the Democratic nominee. I mean, in her defense, she did find time to appear on The View, Howard Stern, Colbert, and the longtime staple of campaigning, the Call Her Daddy podcast. This event.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Trump said a funny joke about her absence. I don't know if I have it marked. We'll see. Before I spoil what it is. Trump also said something about Kamala not being there. She showed it. She had like a video. I haven't seen the video. We'll watch it together. Oh, I'm sorry. That is his whole entire set. Okay. Let's watch this joke about he made a joke to Chuck Schumer.
Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president. And I actually said, do you mind if I do that? And he said, no, you got to do what you got to do. He's a pro. He's a professional.
So, they were like chit-chatting a little bit. And, I assume that people are a lot friendlier than the talking heads would have you seem. And I know for a fact that political operatives who work for Republicans and Democrats, they're in the same group chats. They complain about their bosses to each other and how they make dumb decisions and, things they should do and shouldn't do and their frustrations or whatever. They go to bars together, they go to restaurants together, they're parties together, they're friends. So it kills me that there's so many people who want to break relationships over politics when the truth is so much of this stuff is rhetoric. So much of this stuff is rhetoric, you know? I wouldn't be, if I thought someone was, like literally Hitler, I just wouldn't be smiling and chatting it up with them at times. I would just, be like, fool, I don't want to sit next to like the whole time. I so with Joe Biden putting on that MAGA hat, from that when he's talking to that one Trump supporter, there's no way if I thought that Trump was literally Hitler that I would put on his version of a swastika. I just wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. So anyway, this one is one of my favorites, and you guys have probably heard this by now.
There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Every one of those people is voting for me. There's
that one people I saw they put that on Twitter, Team Trump, and people are like, oh my gosh, he's so savage, that's one of the videos, and if I had time or whatever I'd probably make it, but I don't. But when you play that joke and there'd be like a Trump edit where it's just there's like gangsta paradise in the background and you just show clips of him walking and like pulsing light and like different transitions. People make them all the time, but I don't have that kind of time to do something like that. But that's just that was a savage moment. It's probably my favorite joke that I've heard for sure. You hear people like make those kind of jokes on Twitter and stuff, but the fact that Trump, said a joke like that to all those folks it's just funny because they're so beta is how they come off. There was that they had a White Dudes for Harris, and Dudes for Harris, Zoom meetings, and there was that really cringy video I think we showed earlier in the week, showing like I'm man enough to do my daughter's hair, and I'm also man enough to vote for Kamala Harris, and none of them were particularly super convincing. So that was my favorite joke for sure. Let me see. Okay, let me see if I can find the one that is also really funny. That's a good joke. Or if I can't really quickly, I will just tell you what Trump said. But overall, he did a good job. And Kamala Harris didn't even show. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that she didn't. And she had a pretty joyless message when she addressed it. Okay. I found the joke.
I must say I was shocked when I heard that Kamala was skipping the Al Smith dinner. I'd really hoped that she would come because we can't get enough of hearing her beautiful laugh. She laughs like crazy. We would recognize it any place in this room, and all polls are indicating I'm leading big with the Catholic vote, as I should be. but I don't think Kamala has given up yet. She hasn't. Instead of attending tonight, she's in Michigan receiving communion from Gretchen Whitmer. That's not a pretty sight.
It's not a pretty sight. So if you don't know what that's referring to, she did some kind of video with a influencer or something, and who was on her knees, and she put a Dorito in her mouth, and Catholics were upset because they believed that she was mocking communion. And when I saw it, I was like, that is so weird. Like it was inappropriate. Like what in their minds they'd say, like, does this seem kind of weird, or like people would, I don't know, fetishy or strange, or because she makes an expression like this is odd what I'm doing, even in the video. So I don't understand why her people be like, yeah, absolutely, post it. It's gonna be great. I don't understand. Now I take communion, but I'm not Catholic, so we don't do it the same, because they're like on the knees or whatever, and like taking it from the priest or whatever. So the girl was on her knees. So people were like, this is supposed to mock the Holy Communion. Now, Whitmer denied that. She said she was trying to draw attention to the CHIPS Act, which I don't understand how people were just going to be like, oh, she gave her Doritos. It must be about the CHIPS Act and all the things that Biden has done. I don't see how anyone was supposed to draw that. I mean, people eat chips all the time. Personally, my favorite Dorito is Cool Ranch and not nacho cheese. I prefer the Cool Ranch one myself, but I just knew it was weird. I just knew it was weird. And so she said, I fight for people's religious liberty. I'm like, that's not true. And she's like, and I wouldn't disrespect one's faith. I'm like, that's certainly not true. That's certainly not true. Mocking thoughts and prayers and all that's you do. And many Democrat operatives do. When there are certain religious people who ran for office in the midterms, and the mailers that I got disrespecting their beliefs, but they were trying to paint them as if they were crazy. And some of the things that they were mocking were just normal things that Christians believe. So I'm like, okay, I see how you guys see us. No, that wasn't I'm not talking about a mailer specifically sent from like Gretchen Whitmer or something, but I'm just talking about different PACs and different government, like Democrat operatives. And they'll say, oh, we wouldn't disrespect people's faith. Okay. Sure you wouldn't. Sure you wouldn't. Sure you wouldn't. That's what you say. Nobody believes you. Absolutely nobody believes you. But that was a good joke. And Trump did mention, Kamala not being there, and apparently the last person who skipped out lost like every state, I think. So it's not a good omen, I guess, to miss it. We'll see what ends up happening. Mondale lost every state but one after he skipped. He was the last Democrat to skip the dinner, so they're hoping that's a powerful omen there, that she's gonna. I don't know. I don't think it's possible for her to lose every state except one, but hopefully she loses all the swing states. And if she gets one, that's maybe okay, but not Pennsylvania. Like if she wins Nevada or something, but hopefully she loses them all. So I haven't seen this video from Kamala Harris. So I don't know if we want to watch the whole thing together. We'll see how cringy it is. But she sent a video instead of actually going.
Your Eminence and distinguished guests, the Al Smith dinner provides a rare opportunity to set aside partisanship.
Sorry.
Hey, what's going on? Who was that?
Oh, sorry, Mary Catherine Gallagher. Mary Catherine Gallagher. It's so nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you, Mary Catherine. Right now, I'm trying to record my speech for tonight's dinner.
Oh, yeah, I know. I just want to say that I'm Catholic, and tonight is one of the biggest dinners next to the Last Supper.
It is a very important dinner, and it's an important tradition that I'm so proud to be a part of.
Sometimes when I get
She
nervous,
didn't
I
go.
stick my fingers under my arms and I simmer them like that.
Hmm.
But that's gross.
So tell me something. I'm giving a speech. Do you have some thoughts about what I might say tonight?
My feelings about what you should say tonight would be best expressed in a monologue from one of my favorite made-for-TV series.
Okay, let's hear it.
Don't you see, man? We need a woman to represent us. A woman brings more heart, more compassion. And think how smart she must be to become a top contender in a field dominated by men. It's time for a woman, bro. And with this woman, we can fly.
What series was that from?
Oh, that's from House of Dragons, now streaming on HBO Max.
Is there anything that you think that maybe I shouldn't bring up tonight?
Well, don't lie. Thou shalt not bear false witness to thy neighbor.
Indeed, especially thy neighbor's election results.
Just so you know, there will be a fact checker there tonight.
Oh, that's great. Who?
Jesus. And maybe don't say anything negative about Catholics.
I would never do that, no matter where I was. That would be like criticizing Detroit in Detroit.
Does it bother you that that Trump guy insults you all the time? Because it really bothers my friends and me.
Oh, Mary Catherine, it's very important to always remember you should never let anyone tell you who you are. You tell them who you are.
Haters gonna hate, hate, hate. Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off. Good for you, Mary Catherine.
Oh, yeah, okay. And also remember one more thing. Don't worry if you make a mistake, because Catholic people are very forgiving. Yeah. And also, one last thing I want to tell you, don't forget to say, superstar!
Thank you, Mary Catherine.
Thank you, Kamala.
Thank you. Your Eminence and distinction.
We can go back to watching the maybe we will. I don't feel like I'm biased to the point where if that was funny, that my bias would have stopped me from laughing. That just wasn't funny, right? That just wasn't funny, right? I know that character was a big SNL character. Some people said that they thought that she was one of their least favorite ones that they kept reusing. I always preferred Mad TV myself to SNL, though there's some really classic SNL stuff that's funny. But that wasn't funny. And the rant about we need a woman and that wasn't a joke. That wasn't a joke. And yeah, she's just not pulling this off. Let's see if anything funny happens.
Distinguished guests, the Al Smith dinner provides a rare opportunity to set aside partisanship.
But you ain't there.
And come together to do some good by supporting the tremendous charitable work of the Catholic Church. The Church cares for the sick and feeds the hungry, supports families with housing and education, and in times of disaster, provides not only essential supplies, but also, and so importantly, a sense of hope.
Her teleprompter is off centered away from the camera, so she's not looking directly at everybody, so that's a little off-putting. And I mean, we know it's scripted or whatever, and she's obviously reading from a teleprompter, but if you can arrange it so which they have the glass, I wonder how it got to this. I don't know.
The Gospel of Luke tells us that faith has the power
to
shine a light
gospel
on those living in darkness and to guide our feet in the path of peace. In the spirit of tonight's dinner, let us recommit to reaching across divides to seek understanding and common ground. And in honor of the great Al Smith, let us fight to build a better future with faith in God, our country, and in each other. Thank you. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
I don't even know what that noise you're making is. So, I don't know. As I watched that, I couldn't help but think of, now I know how my kids felt when I FaceTimed into a piano recital they were at.
Oh. Yeah, that wasn't good. That wasn't funny at all, man. Man, how can you? I don't know. I'm puzzled. Below is a statement from the Harris Walls 2024 Rapid Response Director Amara Musa on Donald Trump's appearance on the Al Smith dinner tonight. Donald Trump struggled to read scripted notes written by his handlers, repeatedly complaining that he couldn't use a teleprompter. He stumbled over his words and lashed out when the crowd wouldn't laugh with him. The rare moments he was off script, he went on long, incomprehensible rambles, reminding Americans how unstable he's become. That's their talking point. They're really trying to make it seem like he is Biden after they hid Biden's, mentality, mental instability, his mental decline from Americans. So now they're really pointing to the obvious fact that Trump is old. And granted, that was always going to be on the table if they switched Joe Biden out, that Trump was old. So if that ends up swaying any people to not vote for Trump and cost an election to any degree, that is a decision Republicans decided to go with and still make it the primary. But it's really dishonest that the Democrats are doing this, knowing that they were willing to shove Joe Biden through and covered for him, and Kamala Harris is still covering for him. And of course, he made it all about himself. He may refuse to release his medical records, but every day he makes it clear to the American people that he is not up to the job. What freaking ever. You couldn't even make a good kind of humorous, lighthearted statement about this dinner. That's for, supposed to be charitable and other stuff like that. You just know, where's the joy? Where are the good vibes? And it's just so bitter after your candidate didn't show up. And maybe they just thought she was too joyless and humorless and couldn't pull it off, and she would bomb. And they didn't want her to show up. Maybe they're just so concerned about her because it's an important event. So I don't know why you wouldn't make sure that you could fit that into your schedule. So maybe they were just hiding her, because I don't know why she wouldn't go. But that video was embarrassing. That wasn't funny. And I never really thought the superstar chick was very funny either, to be honest. So the jokes didn't really land. And again, I don't think I'm so biased that I can't laugh at stuff. I can give you your kudos if you say something funny. I like a good joke. But yeah. Good night for Trump, though. Good night for Trump. It's all over Twitter and TikTok and stuff. It's all, he did a good job. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream and run my site, all that good stuff. So you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. Please check out different merchandise that's available on my website. I got different books you guys can check out. It's the weekend. I always encourage you guys to go pick up a new book on the weekend. So, you guys can check out my library. I have 18 published books that you guys can check out. Again, you guys, if you go to the merchandise page on my website on blacktnews.com, there's a banner that'll take you to my book website where you can learn more about my products. But otherwise, you guys can't. There's a link in the description if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook that'll take you to my Amazon page, and it's like an influencer page or whatever, but it has like all my books listed. So you guys can go ahead and pick out a copy of either some of my fiction or my nonfiction. And I hope you enjoy it. But anyway, I hope you guys have a good weekend. Don't Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Enjoy it, have fun, be safe, and I will see you on Monday. God bless.